Welcome to EPG Pathshala. My name is Dr. Poonam Gulalia. I am faculty with the Tata Institute of Social Sciences. The paper that we will be discussing today is Fieldwork and Field Supervision. Within this paper, the module that will be discussed now is known as Fieldwork Curricula Objectives. Fieldwork Curricula Objectives are extremely essential to understand, keeping in mind the fact that fieldwork is the pulse of the social work program. It is an integral part of the social work curriculum of all schools and departments of social work. The objectives with which the module is going to be discussed today are as follows. The first is to enable you to understand and appreciate the importance of a fieldwork curriculum. The second is to understand what are the curricular objectives and the standards which are required for fieldwork practice. The third, of course, is for you as a student learner to understand the importance of partnerships and collaborations in the field. Lastly, it is essential to understand the need for planning the fieldwork program and monitoring the same effectively for student learning. Having briefly mentioned to you the objectives with which we are undertaking this module, it is essential that the three core components, knowledge, attitude, and skill, be briefly mentioned here for you to understand the value of these three components as part of the fieldwork curriculum. Why is knowledge so important for fieldwork practice, and how is it valuable for learning from a student's point of view? When we speak of knowledge, it includes understanding the dynamics of human behavior in the field, whether of individuals, whether of groups, whether of communities. It also includes an understanding of the roles played by the various social systems in the field, and also understanding the political economy of the state. Besides knowledge, it is essential to understand the development of appropriate attitudes in fieldwork practice. These include attributes such as honesty, integrity, creativity, optimism, and this also includes social values and sensitivity to the marginalized or the vulnerable sections of the population, which vary depending on the context. Besides appropriate attitudes and knowledge base, it is essential that the curriculum includes a skill component for the student learner. It is essential as a student who is embarked on this journey of fieldwork to develop appropriate life skills, competencies, and also enhance people-centered skills in the course of fieldwork. As part of the fieldwork curriculum, it is essential to understand what are the requirements of social work practice which shape the content of what is to be learned by the students in the field, whether it's in an agency setting, in a community setting, in a social movement, whether it's through government organizations where you are placed for fieldwork, or whether it's non-government organizations where fieldwork is undertaken by the student learner. It's through these spaces the students are empowered and learn what it means to be an effective social worker. Students can understand at the beginning of the fieldwork program regarding what is expected of them in the field and what is the context of the stated fieldwork objectives with which fieldwork is undertaken, planned and operationalized by the schools and the departments of social work. Herein lies the value of the fieldwork curriculum. It is also important for students to appreciate that in all schools and departments of social work, there are supervisors and faculty advisors who are empowered through the development of the curriculum and who have the mandate to connect with the students and enable them to achieve the objectives of the fieldwork program. It is essential to understand that you as a student are also an adult learner. Having come from different backgrounds, different graduate programs, different learning styles, different streams, it becomes essential that we as supervisors, as mentors, appreciate the fact that you still are adult learners. Entering a professional world wherein you are moving towards a self-directed mode of learning, which in many ways is different from how you have been trained and mentored and guided in your undergraduate days, even when you come from different parts of the country and from different programs and different backgrounds of learning. All schools and colleges in the undergrad program follow different learning styles, but it is in the postgraduate program of the schools of social work that you are treated as an adult learner, where you are expected to have a self-directed mode of learning. You will be having mentors and advisors, supervisors and field contacts, but the expectation is that you do bring with you a range of experiences, a range of learnings, sometimes voluntary work experiences, which need to be respected and from which you yourself can draw upon in the learning. So far, when you have been a student, it has been that you have been advised as to how to go about it. Set solutions have been provided to you, but the fieldwork program is such which is problem-centered rather than subject-centered, and these aspects throw up very many challenges to you as a student learner. Students in the field are provided with opportunities wherein the goals of the fieldwork practicum need to be kept in mind. What are the goals of the fieldwork program? What are the objectives with which the fieldwork program is undertaken? What is the purpose for which students are sent to the field through different organizations? We need to understand that educating the professional social worker, educating the social worker in the making is one of the important goals in fieldwork practice. As mentioned to you a little while ago, it is to develop, to enable you to develop and to enhance your knowledge, skills, attitudes and values which you will take with you as you move along. One of the major goals of the fieldwork program is also to help you develop a professional identity by which you can be known as and call yourself a professional social worker. This will stay with you throughout your professional life, and therefore it is essential that the knowledge component is enhanced and collaborated with the skill component, the learning component, and while retaining the values of the profession, you need to develop yourself as a professional social worker. Developing skills is extremely essential with the purpose of evaluating the effectiveness of the practice from a student-learner point of view. It is also essential because you will be working with diverse marginalized groups, whether it's in the concurrent fieldwork program or in the block fieldwork program or in the rural practicum or a combination of these, and therefore you need to enhance your skill component as you move along. These are the major goals with which the fieldwork program is designed and operationalized. As mentioned to you, there are various forms of fieldwork program which are operationalized by different schools and departments of social work, and many follow the patterns which suit their needs. Some follow the concurrent fieldwork module which runs parallel to the classroom learning. Others follow a block fieldwork module, which is fieldwork wherein a block period of 1 or 2 months is allocated for fieldwork and the remaining part of the year is allocated to classroom learning. There are many others which follow a combination of these, that is partially concurrent and partially block. There are merits and demerits to each of these modules, but keeping in mind the fieldwork setting, the context, the need of the program, the availability of supervisors, the availability of mentors, the background experience and expertise of faculty supervisors and advisors, and the availability of organizations which are willing to mentor students within the city or across the country, these patterns of fieldwork are followed by different schools and departments of social work. When we speak of the fieldwork curriculum and the objectives with which the fieldwork program is undertaken, the reason for doing so is to be able to explain to you and to enable you to understand the learning opportunities which are provided to you through these different forms of fieldwork. To begin with, at the beginning of the year, when students are enrolled in the master's program of the School of Social Work or the departments of social work, all schools of social work follow a process of pre-placement orientation to students, wherein students are taken to different organizations or agencies or placement settings in smaller groups with a faculty member or a mentor accompanying them to provide exposure to them to different field settings. Some of the ways in which organizational visits are structured is by having these visits once a week and taking students based on a thematic area to different organization settings. Some of the thematic areas which are practiced in many schools of social work are health related, livelihood related, and education related. So organizations where largely the focus of work, the thrust of work is on health related issues, they are anchored on the day visits are planned for that thematic area. When undertaking visits for the livelihood sector, sometimes formal and informal spaces are also used for students to get exposure to livelihood spaces of the population in this aspect. Organizational visits are accompanied by what are called group labs, wherein students learn to communicate with each other. They are aware of the kind of biases or prejudices with which they may be coming from. They become more aware of themselves and their surroundings. And these combination of these organization visits and group labs enable students to get more in tune with where they have been enrolled for the master's program and the field work which will follow. The second learning opportunity which is provided to students after pre-placement is the actual placement opportunity, which is largely the concurrent fieldwork program, which runs parallel to the academic classroom teaching. So concurrent fieldwork happens twice a week and classroom teaching is largely 3 to 4 days of the week, wherein students are placed in different fieldwork settings depending on the interest area, the needs of the organizations, the availability of fieldwork settings, and the expertise with which facilitators or mentors can supervise these students in their respective fieldwork settings. The third major area or learning opportunity which is provided by many schools of social work is the block placement opportunity, where in the course of the year, a month, maybe at the end of the year, is allocated for block fieldwork, wherein students have the opportunity that having learned from the concurrent fieldwork program, they can decide which organization, maybe within the city or outside the city, maybe in their hometown or in the vicinity, depending on the learning opportunity they can opt for. And there is an arrangement wherein the faculty in charge connects with these organizations, in terms of ongoing partnerships which are made available for the students to get this opportunity as a learning. Many schools of social work have ongoing study tours or rural camps which also provide learning opportunities to students in different settings with different set of people in different fields of practice and with a different set of marginalized or vulnerable groups depending on where they are placed. Sometimes there are situations where in emergency situations or in disaster situations, students of social work volunteer to pitch in to enable the affected population in times of crisis. This also provides an effective learning opportunity besides enabling students to provide a service to those in need. Largely, these are the varied learning opportunities which are made available to students in terms of the field of social work. In providing fieldwork opportunities to students and in achieving the mandate of the fieldwork program through its curriculum, schools of social work have varied partnerships and collaborations with different organizations, with different stakeholders in the field, which serve several purposes. Partnerships and collaborations are an integral part of social work education and the fieldwork program. These are ongoing collaborations with different organizations, and many schools and departments of social work have faculty members who have been on these organizations in terms of trustees, as mentors, on their advisory boards, or are also connected with them in their ongoing fieldwork programs. This plays a very important part for student learning because students then have a role model to fall back on, have a history of the organization to look up to, and are also connected with the day-to-day realities of the field through its organization. These partnerships and collaborations also play an essential role in connecting the theoretical inputs provided to students with the practical, real-life situations which are made available to them in the field. As mentioned a little while ago, the supervisors and the practitioners who are in the field and who enable students to undertake the fieldwork program, who enable students to bridge the gaps, who enable students to connect the classroom teaching with the field, also contribute in a big way to student learning and also help achieve the mandate of the fieldwork program. Through effective partnerships and collaborations, it is possible for students to remain accountable to the field and to remain connected to the field realities. Having mentioned the fieldwork placements as an important stakeholder in the fieldwork curriculum, in the fieldwork program, it is essential to understand what are the criteria for the selection of these fieldwork placements, for the selection of these organizations as ongoing fieldwork partner for student learning. There are certain criteria as mentioned. One important criteria is that what is the agency's orientation, its mandate, the objectives with which it takes students for student learning, for fieldwork. It is essential that this criteria be educational rather than one of apprenticeship. It is also essential that the student be provided adequate learning opportunities, that there be scope for student learning on an ongoing basis, because concurrent fieldwork, as mentioned, is twice a week. So for both the semesters, the student is placed in the same fieldwork agency, and it becomes essential that this be an ongoing process where the learning plan made by the student, the objectives of the fieldwork agency, the objectives of the fieldwork program all synchronize with each other to achieve its maximum potential. The agency also needs to be able to provide varied kinds of assignments, varied kinds of tasks for student learning, and should remain committed to the social work education, should remain committed to the need for social learning, should be able to recognize the educational nature of the student who himself is an adult learner, who comes with a range of experiences, who may come with his own set of understanding, who himself or herself maybe from the community for which this agency is catering to. So the agency needs to remain flexible and innovative in its approach for student learning. So there are varied expectations from fieldwork agencies or the fieldwork placements which we have, which are ongoing partnerships with the schools and the departments of social work. And one of the basic expectations from the fieldwork agency is that it needs to continue to demonstrate its commitment to the cause, to the social work education, to the cause of enhancement, to the cause of the reaching out to the marginalized population. And the other major expectation is that it should recognize the educational nature of the student, the fact that the student is an adult learner who comes with his or her own background and experiences, who comes with his or her expectations. So we need to remain flexible and innovative in our approach to enhance student learning. Moreover, since students have had their own share of experiences and some of the students come from the communities from which organizations are catering to, it is essential to appreciate and accept student participation while enhancing student learning and while promoting student learning. It becomes very essential, if we are to do justice to what we call the fieldwork curriculum, that we effectively plan and monitor the fieldwork experiences of the student learner. In doing so, it becomes essential that each student be provided a copy of the fieldwork manual, which is to be made available by the Fieldwork Secretariat of the School of Social Work, which outlines the do's and don'ts, which provides the guidelines for fieldwork practice, which elaborates on the need for undertaking process recordings, which explains the need for weekly individual conferences and meetings with supervisors, which also explains the need and the importance of group conferences or group meetings so that it enhances peer learning. It also enumerates the possibilities for resolution of problems in case there are concerns or bottlenecks in the field. So what is the procedure to be followed so that student learning is impacted least of all and that students can effectively complete their fieldwork program. Students must be engaged as far as possible with the planning of the fieldwork program by giving in their interest areas, by being part of the orientation program, by facilitating their own process of connecting with others in the group through group lab exercises, and also during the process of implementation of the fieldwork program and successful evaluation of their own learning. A diversified range of learning experiences are made available to students through different settings, through different forms of fieldwork program at different points of the year in the course of the 2 years of the Master's Program of Social Work. Students are urged to clarify their own expectations, to understand what learning opportunities are made available, to clarify if they have doubts, to bring forth their own personal biases or grievances, to express their own physical or mental health concerns to enhance their own learning in the field. This becomes extremely essential if we are to do justice to the fieldwork program and to the need of the student learner to be an effective learner. While enumerating the challenges in the management of the fieldwork program, it becomes essential to say upfront that sometimes there is a lack of congruence or understanding between the fieldwork objectives stated by the schools of social work in the fieldwork manual, stated by the colleges of social work across the country, and the fieldwork objectives or the mandate of the organizations where we place students, which are multifarious. When we discuss the challenges in the management of fieldwork, it becomes essential to keep in mind that there may be differences in terms of the objectives stated by the organizations, which are multifarious, the objectives of the colleges or the departments of social work, and this may lead or impact student learning. It is herein lies the role of the faculty advisors and supervisors as one set of people, the fieldwork coordinator and the fieldwork secretariat as another set, who could help bridge these gaps and enhance student learning. Sometimes organizations are in a state of turmoil, in a state of stagnation, in a state of finding their own selves in terms of the dynamics which may emerge in organizations, in terms of organizational behavior, or in terms of their own trajectories. It is in some of these spaces that sometimes graded learning opportunities may not necessarily be made available to students. Again, it is the innovativeness, the creativity, the experience of the supervisors and fieldwork coordinators which can help bridge these gaps, we can help pitch in, which can help play a facilitative role to enhance student learning. The third challenge which is likely to arise in the management of the fieldwork program is that sometimes limited opportunities are made available for student learning. Herein lies the role of group conferences, peer learning, learning across centers, learning across thematical areas, learning across agencies, and the role of student seminars plays an important role in bridging this gap too. The developmental orientation which is there to social work, to the profession, and to people-centered movements have sometimes altered the methods-based practice approach which continues to be followed by many schools of social work. There are several departments and schools of social work who are now challenging the methods-based practice, but there is no consensus, there is no uniform approach, and it is not possible in a diverse field settings to have one-size-fits-all approach. This aspect needs to be kept in mind when we undertake fieldwork, and it becomes possible for us as student learners to utilize every adversity as a learning opportunity. Last but not the least, we need to bear in mind that globalization and privatization has impacted the field in big ways and continues to impact organizations in many ways. It also impacts client groups, makes target groups vulnerable. Beneficiaries also are impacted because of this aspect. When we undertake fieldwork as part of an ongoing social work program, it is essential to understand that instead of feeling diffident or defiant, we need to be much more accommodative, and herein lies the use of self-awareness and molding oneself to the need of the situation and learning from it. In summary, one can say that fieldwork curriculum is extremely important, as is an academic curriculum. Curricular objectives and standards for fieldwork practice are essential for effective fieldwork. These are stated in most of the fieldwork manuals which has been designed and which are in operation by schools of social work. Because of the changing context, it becomes essential that we relook at our fieldwork manuals. We learn from experiences of international and exchange students and faculty. We connect with what are the good practices with other schools of social work and revise our fieldwork manual so that curricular objectives can be in tune with current realities and we can feel more grounded and more up to date in connecting with the student as a learner. It also implies that the ongoing partnerships and collaborations in the field be revisited, their importance be strengthened, they be part of our upscaling and mentoring, and also that we find opportunities where they can contribute to the academic curriculum, where they can contribute to our thematic areas, where they can contribute by documenting their practice and by also undertaking research in collaboration with them to enhance their work in the field and also to enhance the learning opportunities which we can provide our students. The challenges which are faced in the field are ongoing, and we need to accept that as an integral part of the curriculum and be able to address them as and when they arise, to be able to oversee them, to be able to have a vision where we can look at them in advance and work towards strengthening our program. I would also urge you to read the e-text in this connection, to also refer to the references which are made available in the e-text, and also hope that you have enjoyed and learned from this module. I look forward to further discussion in this regard. Thank you very much.